small introduction regarding the grid. So the grid itself is a lending and borrowing protocol built around AIPD. AIPD is the native stable coin of AIPF ecosystem. So the core idea is that every user action, borrowing, minting, looping, or saving routes value back to the AIPF token. So the grid itself is like working as a protective layer. So yeah, this is like a small introduction about the grid, about the explanation of what we're gonna work today and discuss in this Binance Live session.
Thank you, Steve, for that. Thank you for sharing that quick bird's view background about greed. And I think this would lead us perfectly into our next question. So, to get things and for to make it simple for our audience, Steve, let's try to keep it simple for everybody because sometimes the hardest thing to do is to explain a complex system, right? In the simplest terms possible. So, Steve, can you give us a quick definition in one sentence? What is AIPF Green?
So I think it will be hard to explain you in one sentence, but I'm gonna try my best to keep it short. Grid is lending and borrowing protocol built around AIPD. So AIPD is stablecoin of AIPF ecosystem. So the core idea is that user action, borrowing, minting, looping, and saving routes value back to the AIPF token.
That's a very good one. Thank you, Steve, for that. Very concise and a powerful way to describe it. And I think all throughout the session we'll slowly unfold that definition one by one, right? So thank you for that, Steve. Now, let us address one of the biggest questions on the investors' minds right now. Because, Steve, as we know, the collapse of several stablecoin projects has understandably made many users cautious, right? And trust has really become one of the most important, things in this industry. So, Steve, why should the investors trust AIPD when there's so many stable coins that have failed already in the past?
So I think that they are partially correct because this is the main point and the main idea. We are not inventing the bicycle or especially not new financial primitives. We are taking a proven mechanism and aligning every single one fit to the AIPF. So that alignment executes conservatively. So it's the differentiator. So the proof will not gonna come from my words or from any other words. It will gonna come from on-chain data 6 months after launch. So just watch what we ship and you will see the results by yourself.
That is amazing. Thank you, Steve, for that. I think that's a really important distinction. And we know that building trust through your design itself is often more effective, right, than relying on promises. So thank you, Steve, for that. Now, speaking of design, Steve, let us explore the minting process. And I think this is something that you have mentioned already from the introduction, right? You've mentioned that there are two tracks, right, for AIPD minting. Can you explain why two tracks exactly? I mean, what's the reasoning behind this?
Mhm. I think this is, yeah, kind of cool question, and I can explain you why there is like two tracks. So before, yeah, let me just quickly explain. So what are the two tracks and how they're related to each other or not? So let's start. So there is like two main logic in AIPF and the grid mechanism itself. So first, we have lend and borrow. So supply assets like USDC, USDT, and other tokens are we can yield them. So or pause culture to unlock liquidity without selling. So rates are dynamic and utilization based. So each asset is isolated. So stress in one market will not gonna affect anyhow into other. So, and right now, let me quickly explain like what are two tracks of minting in AIPF. So AIPD, yeah, is USD backed stable coin with dual minting. So there's two tracks. Track A, we can deposit USDC, mint AIPD one to one, so the same, and we can redeem it anytime. So it doesn't matter like what the time, what the value, we can redeem it and cancel it. And the other track, the second track, is like track B. Yeah. So lock Ethereum, Bitcoin, or AIPF as a collateral at 150 or 175%, and PAC is defended via direct arbitrage stability fee tuning and insurance fund. So there is two tracks, and I hope you understand all of them and how they work.
Thank you so much, Steve. That's a really good explanation. That's a very interesting approach, to be honest, and also getting to know these two tracks. I love how everything was like really designed to accommodate, right, the different preferences and profiles. So thank you, Steve. That's a really good explanation. Now, moving forward, Steve, let us now take a look at how greed is connecting to the broader ecosystem. So, as we know, Steve, sustainable ecosystems require mechanisms that creates the organic harmony, right? The organic demand within the broader ecosystem. So, Steve, can you walk us through how greed drives demand for AIPF?
So yeah, of course I can explain you how does it work and what's it. So grid stops being a standalone product and becomes the uh, credit layer of other protocols built on top of. So gaming protocols can let people and players borrow against in-game assets. So yields strategize can route through loop, wallets can wrap as AAPD, and we become infrastructure, not just app. So every integration drives more fees, so which drives more buybacks. So the flywheel widens itself.
That is fantastic. I love how interconnected, right? How they're technically complementing. I mean, I think it really highlights the importance, right, of aligning the utility with the design. So thank you so much, Steve, for that. Now, moving ahead, Steve, there's one thing that actually caught our attention, and that is your model of treasury engine, if I'm not mistaken on that. And I know that treasury mechanisms, it is becomingly increasingly important, right, in creating long-term sustainability. And I know this would also attract interest to the users out there. So, Steve, how does the treasury engine buyback actually work in green?
Mhm. So the treasury engine, yeah, thank you for your question. So I can also explain you the treasury engine itself and like what's the main logic behind it. So treasury engine is like all protocol fees. So 7 revenue streams are auto-distributed. So 50% buybacks and burn AIPF, 30% boost SAPD yield, and 15% protocol reserve, and the other 5% is insurance fund. So this is everything is like fully on chain and no human intervention. So basically said, treasury engine just helps you to protect and to have more assets to your, like, yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, it's always interesting to see how there are projects like this, right, that are technically innovating around treasury management, value accrual. So I think that is something that is really appealing for our audience. Thank you, Steve, for that. And that would bring us naturally to our next question, which is the token distribution. What exactly is token distribution, Steve? And how does it work in green? Steve, is the 50, 30, 15, 5 fee distribution fixed forever?
So as you read the documentation, I think you read it, and yeah, this is the question that I think that we can discuss right now more as we dive into. So I think that the question given by you is like partially can be answered because I was not like fully on this part because I think it's better to skip this question for now because right now I'm just forgot like what's the actual answer for that because um, yeah, let's just keep.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve. And I think, yes, I think we'll be going to this topic, right, as we go to the following question. So thank you so much, Steve. And let's get the answer for that later on. Now, moving forward, let us now
Yeah.
touch, Steve, on user experience, which is, as always, it's something very important, right? So, Steve, as we know, leverage can be really powerful, right? But it can also introduce additional risks. So, you guys have this the a feature called one click loop. And Steve, I know that this is something new that you guys are introducing, right? Something unique within the ecosystem. So Steve, why is the one click loop safer than the manual leveraging that of course the people might have tried?
Hmm. So I think that the one-click loop itself is like one of the best features that we have created, and for me personally, like one of the most favorite one because the user clicks a button and gets leverage exposure. So EIPF gets a structural buyer added to the order book. So these two things are happening in the same transaction and at the same time. So this is the main design of behind like removing the manual leveraging to the one-click loop because the one-click loop is much safer and can guarantee you that nothing external may affect to the internal stuff.
Thank you, Steve. That's amazing. Wow, I love how this technically reduces the complexity, right? And when you reduce complexity, it often translates into better, like you've mentioned, it's better user protection, right? And of course, enhanced accessibility as well. So thank you, Steve. That's amazing. Thank you for explaining that. Now, moving forward to another part that actually this is something very crucial, and this is about security. Well, security, as always a critical pillar, right? For everything. In DeFi, security is not simply a feature, it's a necessity. It is something that the people, the users really seek for, right? So, Steve, what is your security philosophy in AIPF Green?
Mm-hmm. So the security itself that behind the grid in EIPF is very complex and very interesting to say. So one thing I want to say you first, like no attacks, no nothing can affect to the internal stuff what's happening in EIPF. No market crash in one market can affect to other market. And the main logic behind the protection is like divided in three main parts. So we protect against it through audits, bug bounties, simple code, conservative parameters, and the insurance fund. So the second risk that we are avoiding and protecting is like cascading liquidation. As I said, isolated risk pools and partial liquidations contains it, and we are protecting against it through the main logic that will not gonna give you possibility to affect one market if other market is like down. And the third one is reserve asset DPAC. So USDC is the most stable tested option, and the insurance funds absorbs it. So I'm not gonna tell you that there is like no risks and everything is like 120% is safe, but I will gonna just tell you that we are, and everyone who is saying you that there is like no risk are lying to you. I will tell you that we have engineered every failure mode we can identify.
Got that, Steve. That's amazing. And actually, that's a reality, right? Everything really comes with the risk, right? I mean, risk is always there, right? It's very inherent. So I love how you guys have this strong philosophy, which is, once again, a strong security philosophy like this would really be a strong foundation, right? Of a strong system. So thank you very much, Steve, once again. That is truly amazing for us to hear. Now, moving ahead, Steve, every project must also consider extreme situations, right? Because as we know, risk management is just as important as growth. right? No system is ever immune to challenges. So transparency around downside scenarios is extremely valuable. And I think this is one thing that can, attract people into your ecosystem. So Steve, what is the worst case scenario and how is greed protected in such cases?
So, the worst case scenario that may happen. Very interesting question, and I think um, yeah, I think I had mentioned it before in the last question, but of course I'm gonna tell you one more time. So we protect it against it through audits, bug bounties, simple code, and conservative parameters, and the insurance fund. The second risk is like cascading liquidations, isolated risk pools, and partial liquidations contained. And the third one is a reserve asset deep pack. So USDC is the most stable coin. It's well tested through the time, through the experience, and we're saying that we're using it because it's the most well tested. And we are not. I'm not gonna tell you that there is like zero risk. Anyone who does this lying. So I'll tell you we have engineered it against every failure, and we can identify that this is the most and well protect. Not the most, but I think we do the best job that we can ever ship to you.
Thank you, Steve. Somehow it gives assurance, right? It's very reassuring to hear how there is contingency planning. The team is really doing the best, right, for risk mitigation. And I love how everything is really incorporated into the design. So that is wonderful, Steve. I mean, I love how you've been really open to the audience regarding this. You've been very honest and upfront. So we appreciate your honesty on that. Thank you, Steve. Now, one of the most exciting things, Steve, is about the
Sorry,
future.
sorry, sorry. Let's, sorry for disturbing you. If you remember, you have asked me regarding the 50, 30,
To
15, and 5 logic.
distribution, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Should
Let's
I ask it again
go.
for the
Yeah,
audience?
let's go back to that question. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I just remember it one more time. So the main logic is like
Wonderful.
it's deliverable, not unchangeable. So 50% buyback and burn from holders. The 30% is SAPD yields for users, and 15% reserves for the growth. So 5% insurance for the worst day, and can it change? Only through governance with time locks, never at the discretion of a single party. So the framework is intentionally blessed toward AIPF holders. So I think this is the best distribution of the fees we can possibly give you, and I think this is the best option you can receive.
Thank you, Steve. I mean, that's amazing. And I think, I love how you went back to that question. It really gave a lot of clarity and, the flexibility while still maintaining the clear principles, right, is really a key to long-term sustainability. That is wonderful. Thank you, Steve. And I think, there are a lot of people who might be wondering regarding that about the fee distribution. Once again, that matters a lot. So thank you so much, Steve, for that. Now let's go back to the question and let us now turn our attention into the future. And guys, as we know, I know that each and everybody of you would really want to get to know what is awaiting for AIPF grid. Where is this headed to? So Steve, let us touch on the roadmap. And roadmap often contains broad terms that can spark curiosity. So, Steve, what does Phase 4 ecosystem actually mean?
Mhm. So the phase four ecosystem is like so the grid itself stops being a standalone product and becomes the credit layer for other protocols built on top of it. So gaming protocols can let players borrow against the in-game assets. Yield strategies can route through Loo, and wallets can wrap SAPD. So we became infrastructure, not just app. So every investigation drives more fees, which drives more buybacks. So the flywheel widens itself.
Thank you, Steve, for that. And once again, I love how that paints a clear picture. Once again, ecosystem can actually mean a lot of things, and I love how you've really went into detail regarding that. Thank you, Steve. for that. And once again, it painted a clear picture of the long-term ambitions behind Grid. Thank you, Steve. Now, speaking of the future, now that we're already in this broad topic about the future, right? Steve, for the investors right now who are tuning in that are maybe researching or doing their own research about the AIPF ecosystem, I think understanding the importance of greed is essential for them now that this is a new addition, right, within the AIPF ecosystem. So, Steve, why should an investor evaluating AIPF today care specifically about greed? Why is greed so important for the audience to understand?
Mhm. So I think that because grit is what makes AIPF a productive token instead of speculative one. The grit, yeah, through grit, AIPF is used as a collateral, mints AIPD, and gets bought back through fees, distributes revenue to the stakers. It's not just a bet on the protocol's success, it's a claim on its cash flows. So the more grits is used, the stronger that claim becomes. So this is like what investors should see in AIPF and especially to the grid, since grid is like new ecosystem, the new logic that will gonna change almost everything.
That is really fantastic, Steve. Thank you. And I love how you, I think that answer emphasized really how greed is playing this much larger role, right? Rather than simply being another protocol component or just another addition within the space. Thank you, Steve. That's once again truly amazing for us to hear. Now, Steve, of course, there are still some skeptical minds out there, right? Not everybody can be convinced with the answers that we might be giving or the discussions we're doing. And that's very understandable because the DeFi space is highly competitive and comparisons are very inevitable. So, Steve, how do you respond to those skeptics who say that this is just another lending protocol with a stable coin?
Um, hmm. I think they are partially right because we are not inventing the new financial primitives. We are taking the proven mechanism and aligning every single one to feed AIPF. So that alignment is executed conservatively, so is the differentiator. So the proofs will not even come from my words or from your words, for example. Yeah, it will come from the on-chain data 6 months after the launch. Just watch what we ship, and you will see the results by yourself.
Thank you, Steve. And this is amazing to hear. I mean, especially we cannot actually minimize those people who might still have some having some doubts, right? So differentiation ultimately would really come down to execution, and it's always valuable to hear how the team views it as a unique strength. So thank you, Steve, for that. Now let us touch on what's coming next. And actually, Steve, since you're the one leading grid, right? I would want the answer coming directly from you, right? Because builders often have features that they're especially passionate about, right? So on a personal level, Steve, what are you personally most excited to ship in phase two?
So for me personally, I think this is the one-click loop. So the user clicks button and gets leveraged exposure. So AIPF gets a structural buyer and added to the other order book. So both things happen in the same transaction. So I think this is like the best thing I'm proud of, and this is the thing that I'm most interested in.
Thank you so much, Steve. Wow, those upcoming developments certainly sound exciting. And I know that it would give the community plenty to look forward to. That's fantastic. And actually hearing it from you as the lead of Creed, I think it would give this unique excitement to them. It would actually come it came really came from a reliable source. So thank you, Steve, for that. Now, Steve, I think it would bring us now to our final question. I think we've covered pretty much everything. We've covered the vision, the tokenomic, the security, the roadmap, right? We gave an idea already on what's coming into the future. So, Steve, To conclude today's discussion, we would love to leave the audience, right, with something like a final message coming from the team. So, Steve, can you maybe give us some closing thoughts or any call to action, any message you'd like to leave for our audience?
So my final words about this meeting, yeah, as well, like I was pretty interesting to you, like to introduce you our main logic, the grid and EIPF. So DeFi is like full of promises, roadmap slips, tokens dump, protocols disappear, judges, but what was running on data on chain 6 months after today's meeting. So not but what I said today. Yeah. Read the documentation again to see how grid and what we are doing. Yeah. Watch what we ship and the Treasure engine will run publicly. So everything will be viewed by you. So you can interact with it and see what's happening. The buybacks will execute on chain. So we don't need you to believe in us. We need you to verify what we are doing by yourself. You can see everything since everything is publicly and fully exposed. So you can verify by yourself, not by our words or my words. So I think I was very helpful for you today. And thank you one more time for this beautiful and very productive session. I hope you're gonna enjoy our product as we shipped it. So yeah, let's continue and let's work together and drive more to develop more and to grow together.
Thank you very much, Steve, for sharing those thoughts and for giving us deeper insights into the AIPF grid ecosystem. And I think that would bring us to the end of today's AMA session. So, first and foremost, a huge thank you to you, Steve, and the entire AIPF grid team for joining us, for visiting the CryptoFi community, sharing this wonderful vision behind the project. So, just to wrap things up, especially for our audience, just something to conclude. Guys, today's discussion really highlighted some of the key themes that are shaping the future of DeFi, right? We've touched sustainability, security, treasure driven tokenomics, creating systems that are designed to endure through different market cycles. So, guys, from the innovative AIP disabled asset framework to their treasury engine to the broader ecosystem roadmap, I think it's very clear all throughout the session that AIPF Grid is really aiming to build much more than just another lending protocol. And I think the answers that Steve provided for us on today's session really prove to that point. So to everyone who tuned in today, thank you so much, guys, for your participation. Thank you for your time. I know it's Sunday night, guys, so once again, we appreciate you guys as our viewers for tonight. So for a final call to action, be sure to follow AIPF Grid's official channels to stay updated, especially in regards with phase 2 developments, their ecosystem announcements, and future milestones ahead. Once again, thank you so much, Steve, and to the entire team, and thank you to our amazing community. So, guys, that would end our Amy for tonight. Thank you so much. Until next time, guys, stay safe as always, stay informed, and let us keep building the future of DeFi. See you all in our next AMA. Bye bye. Thank you, Steve. All the very best.
Thank
Enjoy
you. See
Sunday,
you. Bye
guys.
bye.
Bye bye, everybody.